Welcome to Lawyer Business Advantage. This podcast is dedicated to helping attorneys earn more money, get better clients, and spend more time with family. I'm your host, Alay and H.R, founder of law firm Success Group. Smart business guidance for small law firms begins in 3, 2, 1. And it's my pleasure to welcome to Lawyer Business Advantage H.R. Huntsman, founder of Leader's Edge. H.R., how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for inviting me on your show. I really appreciate it.
I am really happy that you're joining because we get to talk about something we haven't talked about in a while on the show, which is a topic of leadership. And so, HR, as we're getting started here, what does leadership mean to you?
I'm going to have to steal from my first mentor, John Maxwell. Leadership is influence. It's the ability to move people in a direction. And we always think about it in the most positive way, of course. There's bad leaders that move people in a bad direction. I believe that leaders change the world. I've been able to travel the world. I've been very privileged of traveling the world, seeing leadership in all kinds of settings, from Hudson, Kenya to boardrooms in Seattle and everywhere in between. And good leaders change the world. And honestly, my passion is to change the world. And I believe that good leaders do that.
Awesome. Awesome. And unfortunately, bad leaders do too.
Bad
Well,
leaders do too.
they're good leaders, but they have bad intentions, I should say.
Right, right.
Um, and when we're talking about leadership, we all have this image of, the president or the person standing up there on a podium saying, go, go, go. What is, when you think about someone who is a good leader,
Yeah,
what are some of the characteristic or traits that you've observed over the years?
sure. So there's two things there. There's the traits of a good leader, and then there's, maybe the roles or positions of a good leader. And you're right, we do have this stereotypical idea of this charismatic driving force, this lady or this man that is just moving the room of thousands. And, that happens, but that's not the wonderful day in and day out leadership that we like to focus on. So the roles, I mean, it's every parent is a leader, right? Every small business owner is a leader. So whether it's one or 20 or 2,000 or 2 million, good leadership character traits or traits of good leaders are, I always like to start with vision, the ability to see a preferred future, and then behind that, the ability to communicate well and move people in that direction, to inspire, to motivate, not to necessarily use sticks or whips to get people there, but the vision of something beautiful for that group of people, for that law firm, for that team, for that sports team, for that family, to paint a clear picture of a preferred future and then motivate people to want that for themselves is really good leadership.
And why is that important in the context of a small law firm? Because a lot of attorney entrepreneurs that might be listening might say, "Yeah, that's great for the CEO of a Fortune 500 company," but you even mentioned that parents are leaders, so this
Sure.
can apply to a very small scale. Why is it important for law firm owners to think about leadership?
Law firm owners and owners in general. So I've built my own companies, several, and I've helped dozens and dozens of people build companies. And we as founders, we tend to make the mistake that people want to build the organization as much as we do. And that's simply not true. And we set ourselves up for hurt and pain if we think that the people we've brought on the team care about our organization as much as we do. They just don't. So what great leaders do, what I've noticed, what great leaders do is they really tap in and they connect with those people really well, and they identify what drives them, what motivates them. What do you want from this law firm? Where do you want to go? What do you want to build a home? You want to buy a home? You want to send the grandkids to college? You want to buy your first car? Like, what do you want from this? And when leaders can understand and connect with those team players, those team members, and then bring an alignment between what they want and what benefits the firm, and when there's congruency there, that's really good leadership. Then that leader can say, okay, here at ABC Law Firm, to help you achieve your goals, this is what that looks like here at the firm. And to meld those two things is what really good leaders do.
What I love about that, what you just mentioned there really stood out for me, is when you were going through the list of things, what do you want from this firm? The one thing you did not mention money. And I love that because you were talking about the things that money could potentially do for somebody.
That's right. So we do a lot of work around motivation. So we get asked to teach on accountability a lot. It's the number one topic that CEOs, law firm owners are saying, H, can you come help us in and build a culture of accountability? Like no one wants to work anymore, Gen Z, blah, 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 blah. And that's just really not the case. They're just motivated differently than me, Gen X, was motivated. So, walking into a law firm or other small businesses and teaching about accountability and motivation and helping these law firm leaders understand what truly motivates people and come to find out what the research shows is that money isn't as important as we once thought. Once we get above a certain level of income, money becomes less and less of a driver. And we do want flexibility. We want meaning. We want purpose. We want autonomy. We want mastery of our skill sets. We want those things and the things, of course, that the money resources can buy. And when the founders, the partners understand what those deeper drivers are, they have a far greater opportunity to lead people toward that future, whatever it is for the law firm.
Yeah, and money's important for sure,
Of course, absolutely.
but it's the things that you can, what does the money do for you as an
That's right.
employee? You
That's
can
right.
make your mortgage, you can invest in your college, in your kid's college fund,
That's right.
food, clothing, shelter, all of those things, security. Those are the things that money can really provide. And then, the other motivating factors are there as well. And oftentimes, like you're saying, they change. The other thing I found really interesting, which I talked about in my book, Staffing Up, is people really hire on to work for somebody for their own set of reasons. This
Of
goes back to your point
course.
about how no one really cares about the firm as much as the owners do.
They just don't.
They don't. And so they sign for, their own reasons, and it's up to you as the owner to figure out what those reasons are, because that's how you're going to keep them there long term.
That's right.
And then, by the way, those reasons can change. So
Yeah.
where those frequent check-ins come in. I'm just curious to get your thoughts on this, HR. When we work with a lot of law firms, one of the things we talk about is, how often do you meet with your employees one-on-one? Um, is it just when you do your annual evaluation, or is it more frequent than that? What we most often hear is, oh, that's an interesting idea. We've been meaning to do those annual evaluations, but we haven't. Like, full stop. Like they don't do anything more than that. When you see that kind of behavior happening at a law firm, what does that mean to you?
It tells me that that founder, that partner, that leader misunderstands the importance of connection with the people there. So there's a poll out just came out a few months ago that said 77% of Gen Y and Gen Z, so millennials and Gen Z, feel severely to moderately isolated. Let that sink in. I want your listeners to let that sink in. 77% of Gen Y and Gen Z feel severely to moderately isolated. Now, the illusion is we're the most connected society and culture in human history because of our phones. We're tethered to this umbilical cord to our phones, but it's illusory. It's not real. It's not real connection. So, in fact, we are dying from disconnection. And what I try to teach CEOs everywhere I go is you got to remember that your small organization is part of a much larger culture in the fabric of society, and you need to think like a little bit like an anthropologist and understand that the people who are coming to work to you are part of this larger framework and understand they're very disconnected. So if you're only really connecting with them once a year or once a quarter, you, the leader, are missing out on an incredible opportunity to build in retention, engagement, and connection. So we teach monthly check-ins. It doesn't have to be long. How are you doing? How are you doing on your goals? I want to help you get to that vacation we talked about in Hawaii. Let's look at some of your deliverables and metrics and how you feeling about and how can I serve you? Like those monthly check-ins are priceless. But most people don't take that 5, 10, 20 minutes because they think we're too busy for that. In fact, you're too busy. Your firm is too valuable not to have those check-ins and that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. If you really are building a firm for yourself and you really want to have that dream of, I'm going to take, a 2, 3, 4 week vacation and have the firm run, well, that takes people to do that, and it takes the right people to do that.
Yeah,
If you get those people in, my God, you want to keep them, because the last thing you want is for a great employee to walk out that door and for you not to know why.
that's right.
Maybe you could have prevented it. Maybe not, but maybe you could have prevented it. Um, So I love that. And then you mentioned accountability, and this is something else that we hear a lot about. And we spend some time working on this too with our clients. When uh, when we're talking to a potential client, they'll say, "Yeah, I've got a team, but they're just not doing their jobs, and everything falls back on me. And what am I paying these people for? And I just kind of want to, you know, rage fire everyone in my organization sometimes."
I hear this almost every day, it seems like. So I asked that leader to understand, and I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. You misunderstand what's behind motivation. There's a deep foundational misunderstanding of how people are motivated. We think, and I teach this from the stage and I teach this in our accountability workshops, we think, go back to that little circus toy monkey that has the symbols. We think, put the coin in the monkey and the monkey performs. The coin being the paycheck. We put the paycheck in the monkey and the monkey does their job. That's a deep misunderstanding of the value of the human condition and how people are wired. They're simply not wired. Put in the paycheck and they'll give you great, production. Much more than that. Again, I'm going to say connection precedes direction. Connection precedes performance. Understanding intrinsic motivators versus extrinsic motivators of the dollar. Understanding those intrinsic motivators that we talked about. Understanding the role, things that I mentioned earlier just quickly. Understanding the role of autonomy. What kind of autonomy are you giving this person? People want voice in their own success. They want voice in the direction. They want a place that has meaning. How much time am I spending about the meaning we have inside the larger culture? How are we serving our community? How does this benefit our clients? All those things are very, very important, and most business owners take those for granted, or they haven't learned how to be an evangelist of those kinds of things.
Yeah. And what we often hear is, a lot of our clients are really strapped for time. These law firm owners are doing the legal work. They are, getting the bills out. They are doing a lot of the marketing and business
Sure.
development. And they're sitting here thinking, oh my God, on top of all of this, you all want me to now spend time with my team every month or even more often, connecting with them and meeting with them. Like that's just one more thing that I
Sure.
don't have time for. And this
Sure.
is one of the things that I talk about a lot, which is law firm owners make this mistake over and over again. They wait too long to hire somebody. They wait until they are up to here with work, and then they pull the trigger and they hire someone. The challenge with that, there's a lot of problems with that approach, but one of the problems with this approach in this context is they're already so buried. They don't necessarily have the time to invest in that relationship and get it off the ground right. And so, attorney entrepreneurs, if you're one of those people that you're looking to hire and you're already buried with work, just know that in the long term, it's going to be worth it. But you're going to have to incur some short term, longer hours because you gotta, when you bring that employee in, they're the most important thing to make successful in your firm, and you have to invest the time to make sure that they get off on the right foot.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And we do hear the time thing all the time. H, we don't have time for all these little check-ins. You're talking these monthly check-ins, all those. I don't have time for that. And I said, well, you're finding the time for turnover. I mean, all the turnover you have. You're finding the time to do new onboarding all the time. You're finding time for all the inefficiencies and all the fires you're putting out. What if we took all that time away and put that into connection rather than putting out fires and all the time you spend in onboarding new people because your turnover is so high. So they are spending the time, they're just not spending it in the most powerful and productive ways.
And HR, I want to make sure that people know what you do and what your organization does because you do everything from, you've written a book to public speaking to running a consultancy. Tell us more.
Yeah, I'm the founder of Leaders Edge. So I started my first company when I was 28, built that up to be pretty large, worked around the world. I retired at age 50, and I can't retire. I love working. And what I learned from my company is as much as I love the work that we did, we built orphanages and vegetable gardens and food projects, and I gave 4,000 talks around the world, and we chased hurricanes and built homes in communities. As much as I love those projects, what I fell in love with was building teams. So in the second half of my career, if you will, in my retirement years, I want to give back to leaders. I had mentors invest in me, and helped me go from a dumb 28-year-old with passion and nothing else. And they gave me some wisdom, and I want to pour back into leaders around the country. So I started a Leader's Edge to build leaders and teams, and we do that with executive coaching and workshops. And I created the Leader's Edge Performance Engine. It's a framework to build great companies and destination workplaces. So that's what we do now.
Love that. Love that. And what are some things that you're excited about with Leader's Edge over the next year or so?
Oh gosh, we're growing like crazy. Putting out another book this year on the performance engine, which details, a good pathway to build really great systems. And we identified 6 systems in any business that need to be healthy and how to build those. And that's what our workshops are based on. So I'm excited to release that book. I guess the book is the big thing that's coming out.
That's the big thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
no, that's a big thing.
When's it coming out?
Should be. I can't give you a date right now. We're still in the editing process, but it'll be probably Q3 or Q4.
Awesome. Well, when it's out, let me know. We'll have you back on the show.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And by the way, attorney entrepreneurs, if you're listening to this and you are committed or you want to be committed to becoming a leader, but you just don't have the time, think about outsourcing your back office operations. So the sponsor of this podcast is Counsel CPAs. They do accounts receivables follow-up, so people that owe you money. They do bookkeeping, they do accounting. They're only focused on law firms. It's Counsel with an S, CPAs.com. Check them out. They're awesome. HR, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, I'd love to chat with them. Either reach out to me on LinkedIn, HR Huntsman on LinkedIn, or just send me an email, hr@yourleadersedge.com.
Awesome. HR, thank you so much for being on the show. Really enjoyed our conversation today.
It's a joy, my friend. Thanks for having me. What an honor.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Lawyer Business Advantage podcast. One thing that would really help both us and other new potential listeners is for you to rate this show and leave a comment in iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you tune in to listen. And I want to hear from you, so connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know what you think of this episode. And if you are a solo or an owner of a small law firm and you're looking to earn more money, attract better clients, or reduce your stress, we would love to talk with you to see how we can help. Request your free law firm assessment by visiting lawfirmsuccessgroup.com. Again, that URL is lawfirmsuccessgroup.com. We look forward to talking with you soon. Thank you for listening. My name is Alay Yajnik. Until next time, remember, you can seize freedom, you can embrace happiness, you can build your perfect practice.